A woman's scream cuts through a dark parking lot. Her husband's fist connects with her jaw.
Stop it!
She crumbles to
You're
the pavement,
hurting me!
begging him to stop. He doesn't.
Someone
He
call the
raises his
police.
boot to kick her while she's down. The dozen people walking by,
You should have listened to me.
they look away. They always do.
Please, Derek, stop.
But he made one fatal mistake. He didn't notice the man with the German shepherd who just parked 3 spaces away. That quiet stranger wasn't just some random bystander. He was deltaforce, and his dog had just locked onto a threat. Before we go further, tell us where you're watching from. And if this story moves you, please subscribe for more. The parking lot at Riverside Market stretched out like every other suburban grocery store lot in America. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting that particular orange-tinged glow that made everything look slightly unreal. It was 7:47 p.m. on a Thursday, that weird in-between time when the after-work rush had died down, but before the store closed for the night. You know that time, when the parking lot is half empty, when people are tired, when everyone just wants to get home. Emma Martinez sat in the passenger seat of a silver Honda Accord, and her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She was 28 years old, 5 months pregnant, and she'd made a mistake. She knew it the moment the words left her mouth. She'd forgotten to pick up Derek's protein powder. That specific brand he liked, the one from the supplement store across town. It was a small thing, the kind of thing that shouldn't matter. But with Derek, everything mattered. "I'm sorry," she said again, her voice small. She'd already apologized 4 times. "I'll go back tomorrow, first thing, I promise." Derek's hands gripped the steering wheel. His knuckles were white. He hadn't started the car yet. That was the thing about Derek that terrified her most. It wasn't the explosion, it was the stillness right before it. The way he'd go quiet. The way the air in the car would change, would get thick and heavy like right before a thunderstorm. "You had one job, Emma." His voice was low, controlled, almost calm. That's how you knew it was bad. "One simple job. I write you a list, a detailed list, and you can't even handle that." "I know, I'm sorry, I'll fix it." "You'll fix it." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You always say you'll fix it. You said you'd fix dinner last week. You burned it. You said you'd fix the laundry situation. My work shirts had wrinkles. Now this." Emma's hands moved instinctively to her belly. 5 months. A girl they'd found out last week. Derek had smiled at the ultrasound appointment, had held her hand, had seemed genuinely happy for almost a full day. Then she'd forgotten to record his basketball game, and that version of Derek had vanished like it never existed. "Derek, please, can we just go home? I'm tired. The baby. He cut her off. "Don't use the baby as an excuse for your incompetence. My mother managed 5 kids and never once forgot anything my father asked her to do. But you can't handle a simple grocery list." There it was, the comparison to his mother. St. Catherine, who'd raised 5 kids in a spotless house while running a home business, and never once, according to Derek's family mythology, made a single mistake. Emma had met Catherine twice. The woman had looked at Emma like she was something stuck to the bottom of her shoe. "I'm trying," Emma whispered. "You're trying." Derek turned to look at her now. His face was flushed, that vein in his temple pulsing the way it did. "Do you know how embarrassing this is? My boys at the gym ask about you. They ask if you're taking care of me. What am I supposed to say? That my pregnant wife can't even remember protein powder?" "No one cares about protein powder, Derek." The slap came fast. Not hard enough to leave a mark. Never hard enough to leave a mark where people could see, but sharp enough to snap her head to the side. Sharp enough to make her gasp. "Don't talk back to me." His voice was still quiet, still controlled. "Don't you ever talk back to me." Emma's cheek stung. Her eyes watered, but she wouldn't cry. Crying made it worse. Crying made him angrier. She'd learned that 2 years ago, 3 months after they got married, the first time his hand had connected with her face. He'd apologized then, brought her flowers, told her he'd been stressed at work, told her it would never happen again. It happened again, and again, and again. "Get out of the car," Derek said. "What?" "You heard me. Get out of the car." "Derek, please, let's just go home. I'll make your favorite dinner. I'll do better, I promise." His hand shot out and grabbed her arm. His fingers dug into the soft flesh of her bicep, hitting that spot he knew left the worst bruises, the ones that lasted for days. "I said get out of the car." He yanked her door open and dragged her out. Emma stumbled, her pregnant belly throwing off her balance. Her grocery bags fell, oranges rolling across the asphalt. An elderly woman loading groceries into a Subaru 3 spaces away glanced over, made eye contact with Emma for a fraction of a second, then quickly looked away and closed her trunk. Emma knew that look. She'd seen it before. It was the look of someone deciding that whatever was happening wasn't their business. "Derek, stop. People are watching." "Let them watch." He pushed her against the car. Maybe they should see what happens when a wife can't do the simplest things for her husband. 3 spaces away, a different kind of man was loading groceries into a black Ford F-250. Marcus Reid moved with the efficiency of someone who'd spent 20 years making every motion count. He was 36, 6'2", with the kind of build that came from functional strength, not gym vanity. His brown hair was cut military short, graying slightly at the temples. His face was weathered, lined in a way that made him look older than his years. He had quiet eyes, the kind that missed nothing. He loaded a case of water into his truck bed. 12 cans of soup. Dry goods. The shopping list of someone who lived alone and didn't care much about culinary variety. His movements were automatic, his mind elsewhere, running through the checklist of things he needed to do before his meeting with the VA counselor next week. Beside the truck, sitting in perfect position with his tail wrapped around his paws, was Havoc. Havoc was a German shepherd, 4 years old, 75 pounds of lean muscle and sharp intelligence. His coat was the classic black and tan, his ears perpetually alert. He wore a vest that identified him as a service dog, though the vest didn't tell the whole story. Havoc wasn't a PTSD support animal or a seizure alert dog. Havoc was a retired military working dog, explosive detection specialist, 3 deployments, multiple confirmed finds that had saved countless lives. Marcus had worked with Havoc in Afghanistan. When the dog's military service ended and he was up for adoption, Marcus had put in his paperwork immediately. That was 8 months ago. Now they were both adjusting to civilian life, both trying to figure out what normal looked like, both finding it harder than they'd expected. Havoc's ears twitched. His head turned slightly to the left, his attention fixing on something across the parking lot. His body language shifted just slightly. His tail stopped its gentle sway. His muscles tensed. Marcus noticed immediately. He'd spent years learning to read Havoc's signals. A shift in posture, a change in breathing. These tiny movements had meant the difference between life and death in Helmand Province. "What is it, boy?" Marcus's voice was low, calm. Havoc's gaze was locked on something 3 rows over. Marcus followed the dog's sight line and saw it. A man. A woman. An argument that was escalating into something else. Marcus's training kicked in without conscious thought. His brain catalogued details, the way it had been programmed to do. Male subject, approximately 5'10", 200 pounds, aggressive posture. Female subject, smaller, pregnant, defensive body language. Subject 1 has Subject 2 against a vehicle. Subject 2 is trying to de-escalate. Subject 1 is not responding to verbal cues. This wasn't his business. Marcus knew that. He'd left the service precisely because he was tired of making other people's problems his business. He'd spent 2 decades being responsible for other people's lives, other people's safety. He'd come home to be alone, to not have to carry that weight anymore. But Havoc's body language was unmistakable now. The dog had gone completely still, his focus absolute. This was his alert posture. Threat detected. Marcus watched as the man grabbed the woman's arm and yanked her away from the car. Watched as she stumbled. Watched as she tried to pull away, and the man grabbed her harder. And Marcus watched as a woman loading groceries into a Subaru, nearby glanced over, saw what was happening, and deliberately looked away. That's what decided it for him. Not the violence itself, but the looking away. The decision by a dozen people in that parking lot to pretend they weren't seeing what they were clearly seeing. Marcus had seen that before, in village squares in Afghanistan, in Iraqi neighborhoods, the way people would look away when bad things happened, because looking away was safer than getting involved. He'd hated it then. He hated it now. "Come," he said quietly to Havoc. The dog fell into step beside him immediately, his gait smooth and controlled. They moved across the parking lot, not running, not rushing, just moving with purpose. Marcus's hands hung loose at his sides. His breathing was steady. His heart rate was calm. This was just another situation to assess and handle. As they got closer, Marcus could hear the argument clearly now. "You're embarrassing me," the man was saying. His voice was rising, losing that controlled quality. "You're always embarrassing me, in front of my family, in front of my friends, now here, in public." "I'm sorry." The woman's voice was desperate now, pleading. "Derek, please, just let me get back in the car. We'll go home. It's fine." "It's not fine, Emma. Nothing is ever fine with you." Derek's hand rose. Emma flinched, her arms coming up to protect her face and her belly. That's when Derek saw Marcus approaching. His hand froze mid-swing. His face changed, cycling through confusion, then irritation, then that particular brand of aggressive defensiveness that insecure men use when they're caught doing something shameful. "Keep walking, buddy," Derek said, his voice dripping with false confidence. "This is between me and my wife. None of your business." Marcus stopped about 8 feet away, close enough to intervene if needed, far enough to give space. Havoc sat immediately, positioned slightly ahead of Marcus's left leg. The dog's eyes never left Derek. "Seems like it became everyone's business when you dragged her out of the car," Marcus said. His voice was conversational, almost mild. No aggression in it, no challenge, just a statement of fact. "Who the hell are you? Her boyfriend?" Derek laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. "That's rich. Look at him, Emma. This your backup plan?" Marcus didn't respond to that. He wasn't here to engage in verbal sparring with an abuser trying to maintain his false sense of control. He looked past Derek to Emma. "Mom, are you all right?" Emma's eyes were wide, filled with a complicated mixture of fear, shame, and something that might have been hope. Her hand was on her belly, protective. There was a red mark on her cheek that was just starting to darken. "I'm fine," she said automatically. It was the response of someone who'd said those words too many times. "Really, we're just having a discussion. Marriage stuff. You know how it is." "I don't, actually," Marcus said calmly. "But I know what I'm seeing, and what I'm seeing is a man who put his hands on his pregnant wife in a parking lot." Derek's face flushed darker. "You need to mind your own business before you get hurt, old man." Old man. Marcus was 36, but he supposed to someone like Derek, that probably seemed ancient. He didn't take the bait. "Here's what's going to happen," Marcus said, his voice still calm, still level. "You're going to step away from your wife. You're going to get in your car, and you're going to leave." Derek laughed again. "Or what? You're going to make me, you and your dog?" "I'm not going to make you do anything," Marcus said. "I'm just giving you information about your best option right now. What you do with that information is up to you." There was something in Marcus's tone that finally seemed to penetrate Derek's rage, something that made him take a half-step back. Maybe it was the absolute calm. Maybe it was the way Marcus stood, balanced and ready. Maybe it was Havoc, sitting perfectly still, but radiating controlled potential. But Derek's ego wouldn't let him back down completely. Not in front of Emma. Not in front of the small crowd that was starting to gather at a safe distance. People who'd been perfectly happy to ignore the situation until someone else stepped in first. "You don't know what you're talking about," Derek said. "This is my wife, my family. You have no idea what goes on in our marriage. She makes me crazy. She pushes my buttons. Sometimes I have to remind her." He reached for Emma's arm again. That was the mistake. Marcus moved. Not fast, not in a way that would look dramatic on security footage, but with absolute purpose. 3 steps forward, his hand catching Derek's wrist mid-reach, redirecting it with minimal force but maximum efficiency. A simple joint lock, the kind taught in every military combative's course. Derek's arm was suddenly extended, his wrist bent at an angle that sent shooting pain up to his shoulder. Derek yelped, dropping to one knee. "Here's what you need to understand," Marcus said, his voice quiet, meant only for Derek's ears. "You're going to get in your car, you're going to leave, and you're not going to contact your wife again tonight. Those are your choices. The alternative is, I hold you here until the police arrive, and everyone in this parking lot tells them exactly what they saw. You're breaking my arm." Derek's voice was high now, panicked. "I'm applying pressure to a joint. If I wanted to break your arm, it would already be broken." Marcus released the hold and stepped back. Derek scrambled to his feet, cradling his wrist. His face was red, tears of pain and humiliation in his eyes. He looked at Emma, and for a moment Marcus saw the calculation there. Derek was weighing his options, trying to figure out if he could salvage his pride. "Emma, get in the car," Derek said. "We're leaving." "No." The word came from Emma, soft but clear. Everyone turned to look at her. She was standing straighter now, her hand still on her belly, but her chin up. She was looking at Derek, and something in her expression had changed. "I said no, Derek. I'm not getting in the car with you." Derek's face went through a rapid series of expressions. Confusion, disbelief, rage. "Emma, don't do this. Don't embarrass me more than you already have. Get in the car. Now." No. It was just one word. But Marcus recognized its power. He'd seen this before, in different contexts. The moment when someone decided they'd had enough. When the fear got outweighed by something else. Not always courage. Sometimes just exhaustion. Derek took a step toward Emma. Havoc stood up. It wasn't a dramatic movement. The dog simply rose to his feet, his body positioned between Derek and Emma, and made a sound deep in his chest. Not quite a growl, but a rumble that carried a very clear message. Derek froze. There was something primal about the threat a trained protection dog represented. Something that bypassed all the rational thought and hit straight at the lizard brain. "This isn't over, Emma," Derek said, his voice shaking now with a combination of rage and fear. "You think you can just walk away? You think I'll let you? You're carrying my child. You're my wife. You belong to me." Marcus stepped forward again, positioning himself next to Havoc. "I want you to listen very carefully," he said, and for the first time there was an edge in his voice. Not anger, exactly, but something harder. Something that suggested this was the last warning Derek would get. "Your wife just told you no. That's the end of the conversation. You can leave on your own, or I can help you leave, but either way, you're leaving, right now." The two men stared at each other for a long moment. Derek, flushed and breathing hard, his wrist still cradled against his chest. Marcus, calm and still, with Havoc beside him. Derek blinked first. "This is assault," he said, his voice trying to find authority and failing. "I'm calling the police. I'm pressing charges." "Please do," Marcus said. "I'm sure they'll be very interested in the red mark on your wife's face, and the witnesses who saw you drag her out of the car, and the way you just said she belongs to you." Derek looked around the parking lot. The crowd had grown, people with their phones out now, recording, bearing witness now that it was safe to do so. He got in his car, slammed the door, started the engine with shaking hands, and drove away, his tires squealing slightly as he took the turn too fast out of the parking lot. The moment his car disappeared, Emma's legs gave out. Marcus caught her before she hit the ground, his movements gentle now, supporting her weight as he helped her sit on the curb. Havoc immediately moved to her other side, pressing against her, offering his warmth and solid presence. Emma was shaking, full-body tremors that she couldn't control. Not crying yet, just shaking, her breath coming in short, shallow gasps. "You're okay," Marcus said quietly. "You're safe. He's gone. He'll come back." Emma whispered. "He always comes back, and he'll be so angry. You don't understand. He'll be so angry." "I understand," Marcus said. And he did. He understood it better than she knew. Someone in the crowd had already called 911. Marcus could hear the sirens approaching. The sirens cut through the parking lot like a knife, their red and blue lights painting the scene in alternating waves of color. 2 patrol cars pulled in, their headlights illuminating the small crowd that had gathered at what they all considered a safe distance. You know how it is. People love to watch, but nobody wants to be too close when the cops start asking questions. The first officer out was a woman, mid-30s, with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun and eyes that had seen too much to be surprised by anything. Her nameplate read Chen. Officer Sarah Chen. She took one look at the scene, her gaze moving from Marcus standing protectively, near Emma, to Havoc sitting alert beside them, to Emma herself curled on the curb with her arms wrapped around her pregnant belly, and her expression shifted from professional neutrality to something harder. Recognition. "Mrs. Martinez," Officer Chen said, and there was a weight in those 2 words. A history. Emma looked up, and the moment she saw Officer Chen, something in her face crumbled. It was the look of someone who'd been caught in a lie they'd been telling themselves. "Officer Chen, This isn't— Don't." Officer Chen's voice was firm, but not unkind. She knelt down next to Emma, her movements careful, non-threatening. "Don't tell me this isn't what it looks like. We both know that's not true." Marcus watched the exchange, his tactical mind processing the dynamic. These 2 knew each other. This wasn't the first time they'd had this conversation. Officer Chen's partner, a younger guy with a fresh face that screamed rookie, was already talking to witnesses. Getting statements, collecting phone numbers. Marcus could hear fragments of their accounts. He was hitting her. Dragged her right out of the car. That guy with the dog stopped it. Would have been worse if he hadn't. Now they wanted to talk. Now they wanted to be witnesses. When it was safe. When someone else had already taken the risk. "Mrs. Martinez," Officer Chen said again, her voice dropping lower. "This is the 5th time we've been called to a situation involving you and your husband. The 5th time. And every single time before this, you've told me everything was fine, that it was a misunderstanding, that you didn't want to press charges." "I know," Emma whispered. Her hands were shaking so badly she couldn't keep them still. "I know, I'm sorry." "You don't apologize to me," Officer Chen said. "You don't owe me an apology. But I need you to be honest right now. I need you to tell me the truth. Did your husband assault you tonight?" The silence stretched out. Marcus could see the war playing out on Emma's face. Fear, shame, the weight of years of conditioning. The voice in her head that Derek had carefully planted there, telling her this was her fault, that she'd provoked him, that if she just tried harder, it would all be fine. "I forgot his protein powder," Emma said finally, her voice barely audible. "I had the whole list, everything else, but I forgot that one thing, and he was so angry, and I should have remembered, I should have—" "Stop." Officer Chen's voice was sharp now. "Listen to me. I need you to hear this. There is nothing, absolutely nothing, you could have forgotten or done wrong that justifies what he did to you. Do you understand me? Nothing." Emma's face crumpled. The tears came then, finally, in great heaving sobs that shook her entire body. "He said I embarrass him. He said his mother never forgot anything. He said I can't even handle simple things. And he's right, I can't. I mess everything up. I always mess everything up." Marcus felt something cold and familiar settle in his chest. He'd heard this before. Different words, same message. The way an abuser could take a person and slowly, methodically, dismantle their sense of self until they believed they deserved every moment of pain. His mother had talked like this, before his father's accident, before the man who'd terrorized their family for 15 years drove drunk into a telephone pole and freed them all. Officer Chen was talking to Emma in a low voice, her hand on the younger woman's shoulder. Marcus heard fragments. "Safe place to go tonight. Restraining order. Not your fault." Chen's partner approached Marcus. "Sir, I'm Officer Davis. I need to get your statement about what you witnessed here tonight." Marcus gave it clearly, concisely. The facts, nothing more. He described what he'd seen, what Derek had said, what Derek had done. His tone was neutral, professional. Just a witness reporting an incident. "And you intervened, physically?" Officer Davis asked, his pen poised over his notepad. "I restrained him when he attempted to grab his wife after she'd indicated she didn't want to be touched. Minimal force, joint lock, released immediately when he complied with verbal commands to step back." Officer Davis looked up from his notebook, really looked at Marcus for the first time, took in the bearing, the precise language, the way Havoc sat in perfect position beside him. "Military?" Davis asked. "Was." "What branch?" Marcus hesitated for just a fraction of a second. "Army, long time ago." It wasn't a lie, exactly. Deltaforce was technically Army, but it also wasn't the kind of thing you advertised in casual conversation. Officer Davis seemed to sense there was more to that story, but had the good sense not to push. "Well, sir, I appreciate your intervention. Situations like these can go very wrong very fast." "I know." Officer Chen had helped Emma to her feet and was walking her toward one of the patrol cars. "We're going to take you to the hospital, Mrs. Martinez," she was saying. "Get you checked out, make sure the baby's okay, and while we're there, I'm going to have you speak with someone from the Victim Advocacy Program. Her name is Lisa. She's good. She'll help you understand your options." "Derek will find out," Emma said, fear sharp in her voice. "The hospital will call him. He's listed as my emergency contact. He'll know, and he'll be so angry. You don't understand how angry he gets." "I do understand," Officer Chen said. "But here's the thing. It doesn't matter how angry he gets. He doesn't get to touch you. Not tonight. Not ever again. And we're going to make sure of that." Emma looked back over her shoulder at Marcus. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. But there was something else there now. Something that hadn't been there before. "Thank you," she said. "I don't even know your name, but thank you. You didn't have to help me. Everyone else just—" "I know," Marcus said. "But you're worth helping. Remember that." As they loaded Emma into the patrol car, Officer Chen turned back to Marcus. She studied him for a moment, her cop eyes reading things most people wouldn't see. The stillness in his posture, the way his gaze constantly scanned the area, the service dog that wasn't just a service dog. Mr. Reid, Marcus Reid. Mr. Reid, what you did tonight, that took guts, or training, or both. She pulled out a business card and handed it to him. If Derek shows up looking for you, if there's any blowback from this, you call me, day or night. That's my direct cell on the back. Marcus took the card. You've dealt with him before. It wasn't a question. Officer Chen's expression darkened. 4 times in the last 18 months, neighbors calling in noise complaints, sounds of a disturbance. Every single time, by the time we got there, Emma had a story. She fell. She walked into a door. She was clumsy, and every single time she refused to press charges, refused to even admit what we could all clearly see was happening. Why didn't you arrest him anyway? Because domestic violence laws in this state require victim cooperation for prosecution in cases that don't involve serious injury. And Derek Martinez is very, very careful never to leave marks that rise to that level. He's smart. He knows exactly where the line is and how to stay just on the safe side of it. She paused. Until tonight. Tonight he got sloppy, too angry, too public. And tonight we have a dozen witnesses and video footage. Tonight I can build a case that doesn't require Emma to be strong enough to fight him in court. Marcus understood what she wasn't saying. That Emma might recant tomorrow, might forgive him, might go back, that the cycle might start all over again unless they had enough evidence to proceed without her cooperation. She won't go back to him tonight, Marcus said. No, but tomorrow, next week, that's what I'm worried about. Officer Chen looked back at the patrol car where Emma sat, small and broken. You know what the statistics say? A woman in an abusive relationship leaves an average of 7 times before she leaves for good. 7 times. And the most dangerous time for her is right after she leaves. That's when they get killed. Marcus knew those statistics. He'd learned them years too late to help his own mother, who'd stayed with his father for 15 years of escalating violence, who'd finally gotten the courage to file for divorce the same week his father wrapped his truck around a telephone pole. Officer Chen started to walk away, then turned back. Mr. Reid, I don't know what you did before you ended up in this parking lot tonight, but I recognize a warrior when I see one. Emma's going to need someone in her corner, someone who doesn't scare easy, someone who knows how to handle dangerous men. If you're willing, I'll check in on her. Marcus said, make sure she's okay. Officer Chen nodded, satisfied, and headed to her patrol car. The crowd had mostly dispersed by now. The show was over. Everyone could go back to their comfortable lives and their comfortable belief that bad things happened to other people. Marcus stood alone in the parking lot with Havoc, the adrenaline finally starting to fade, leaving behind the familiar empty feeling he'd been carrying since he'd come home. The feeling that he'd traded one war for another, and this one had no clear enemy, no mission parameters, no extraction plan. Come on, boy, he said quietly to Havoc. Let's go home. But as he loaded his groceries into his truck, he couldn't shake the image of Emma's face, the fear in her eyes, the way she'd flinched before Derek even hit her, the practiced nature of her apologies. He'd seen that look before, in his mother's eyes, and he'd been too young, too small, too powerless to do anything about it. He wasn't that boy anymore. The next 72 hours unfolded like a masterclass in how broken the system really was. Derek Martinez made bail in less than 12 hours. His charge was assault in the 4th degree, a misdemeanor. His lawyer, a sharp-dressed man named Richard Carlson, who specialized in making bad men look like victims, got him out with a signature bond and a temporary restraining order that required him to stay at least 100 yards away from Emma. 100 yards. Like that distance was some magical barrier that would keep her safe. Marcus learned all this from Officer Chen, who called him the morning after the incident. I wanted you to know, she said, her voice tight with frustration. He's out. His family posted bail. His mother, actually. Showed up at the courthouse in her church clothes, crying about how her son was being persecuted, how that woman has always been dramatic, how Derek is a good boy who just needs patience. And Emma? Victim Services placed her at a shelter. The good news is it's one of the secure ones. Former hotel that got converted. They've got security cameras, controlled access, trained staff. She's safe there. For now. Marcus heard the unspoken words. For now. Until Derek found out where she was. Until he violated the restraining order. Until the system failed her again. What about charges? The prosecutor is filing. Assault, intimidation, violation of domestic abuse laws. But here's where it gets interesting. Officer Chen's voice dropped lower. Derek's lawyer is already spinning this. He's claiming you attacked his client, that you're the aggressor, that Derek was trying to have a private conversation with his wife, and you assaulted him unprovoked. Marcus let out a slow breath. Of course, that's how it would go. He's also claiming Emma has mental health issues, that the pregnancy has made her unstable, that she's confused about what really happened. His family is backing him up. They're painting Emma as this unreliable narrator and Derek as the real victim here. But there are witnesses, video footage, all of which show the end of the confrontation, not what led up to it. Derek's lawyer is very good at creating reasonable doubt. And Derek himself? He's already got his story straight. He's telling everyone who'll listen that Emma provoked him, that he never touched her, that you're some vigilante who attacked him for trying to handle his wife. Marcus felt the old anger starting to burn in his chest, the same anger he'd felt as a kid, watching his father manipulate police officers and social workers, watching him charm his way out of consequences again and again. What does Emma say? There was a long pause. That's the problem, Mr. Reid. Emma isn't saying much of anything. She's shut down. Lisa, our victim advocate, says it's a trauma response. Emma keeps saying she just wants everything to go away, that she doesn't want to cause trouble, that maybe she did overreact. He's gotten to her. No, he hasn't had any contact, but he doesn't need to. The damage is already done. Years of it. He's in her head. Even from 100 yards away, he's still controlling her. Marcus understood. Abuse wasn't just physical. It was psychological warfare. It was dismantling a person's reality until they couldn't trust their own perception of events. I want to help, Marcus said. I was hoping you'd say that. Officer Chen's voice took on a different quality. More purposeful. Emma needs resources. Real resources. The shelter she's in is good, but it's temporary. She needs a lawyer who specializes in domestic violence cases. She needs a safety plan that actually works. She needs someone who understands that Derek Martinez isn't going to just accept this and move on. Men like him, they escalate. You know someone? I know several someones, but I can't officially recommend them. I'm a patrol officer. I have to stay neutral. You, on the other hand, you're a private citizen who witnessed a crime. You have every right to connect with the victim and offer support. Marcus understood what she was really saying. She was giving him permission to do what the system couldn't. Over the next week, Marcus became a quiet presence in Emma's life. Not intrusive, not overbearing, but there. He showed up at the shelter with groceries. Good groceries. Not the canned goods and processed food that filled the donation pantry. Fresh fruits, vegetables, protein, things a pregnant woman needed. He connected her with attorney Jennifer Moss, a former prosecutor who'd left the DA's office to specialize in representing domestic violence survivors. Jennifer took one look at Emma's case and took it pro bono. And Marcus did something else. Something he hadn't done since he'd left the service. He started making calls, reaching out to his old network, people who owed him favors, people who knew how to find information that wasn't public record. What he found about Derek Martinez painted a disturbing picture. Derek had a juvenile record that had been sealed when he turned 18. Assault charges, 2 different incidents involving girlfriends in high school. Both times his family had intervened. Money had changed hands. Charges had been dropped. In college, there'd been a Title IX investigation. A girlfriend had filed a complaint. The investigation had gone nowhere. The girl had transferred schools the next semester. Derek's first wife, a woman named Michelle, had filed for divorce after 8 months of marriage. The divorce records were sealed, but Marcus had contacts who could unseal just about anything. Michelle's testimony in the closed proceedings described a pattern of escalating violence, choking, pushing. One incident where Derek had locked her in a closet for 6 hours. Michelle had gotten out, but she'd also signed a non-disclosure agreement as part of the divorce settlement. Derek's family had paid her $50,000 to never speak publicly about what he'd done. Emma was wife number 2, and Derek's pattern had escalated. Marcus compiled everything into a file: names, dates, documentation. He gave it to Jennifer Moss, who looked at it and then looked at him. "Where did you get this?" she asked. "Does it matter? Legally, some of it might not be admissible, but strategically?" She smiled, and it wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of a lawyer who'd just been handed ammunition. "Strategically, this changes everything. If Derek's lawyer tries to paint him as the victim, we can show a pattern going back 15 years. We can show that Emma isn't his first victim. We can show that his family has been covering for him for over a decade." But while Marcus and Jennifer were building their case, Derek was building his own campaign. He showed up at Emma's workplace, the small dental office where she worked as a receptionist. He didn't violate the restraining order. Not technically. He stood in the parking lot, exactly 105 yards away, and watched. Just stood there and watched, until Emma saw him through the window and had a panic attack so severe they had to call an ambulance. He called her parents. Emma's parents, who lived in Florida and whom she hadn't seen in 2 years because Derek had slowly isolated her from them. He told them Emma was having a breakdown, that the pregnancy had made her unstable, that she'd become violent and he'd had to defend himself, that some stranger had attacked him and was now filling Emma's head with lies. Emma's mother called her crying, begging her to work it out with Derek, reminding her that marriage was sacred, that she'd made vows, that grandchildren needed their fathers. Derek's family launched a social media campaign. His mother posted on Facebook about how her son was being persecuted, how he was a good man who'd made a mistake, how that woman had always been trouble. The post got shared 200 times. People Emma knew, people from her church, started commenting. Some supported her, but too many didn't. Relationships are complicated. There are 2 sides to every story. Maybe she should try counseling. The pressure was immense, crushing. Emma started talking about dropping the charges, about how maybe she had overreacted, about how maybe they could work it out. That's when Marcus knew they were losing her. He showed up at the shelter one evening. Emma was sitting in the common room, her hands resting on her pregnant belly, staring at nothing. "He's winning," she said when she saw Marcus. "Everyone believes him, even my own mother. And maybe they're right. Maybe I am overreacting. Maybe I should just stop." Marcus sat down across from her. Havoc settled at his feet. "I want to tell you a story." Emma looked up, surprised. "My father beat my mother for 15 years. Marcus said. His voice was level, factual. This wasn't therapy. This was intelligence. He was a respected man, deacon at our church, Little League coach. Everyone loved him, and behind closed doors, he terrorized us. My mother tried to leave twice. Both times he found her. Both times he convinced her it was her fault, that she'd provoked him, That if she just tried harder, if she just didn't make him angry, everything would be fine. Emma's eyes were locked on his face now. When I was 15, my father drove drunk and hit a telephone pole. He died instantly. And you know what my mother said at his funeral? She said she felt guilty for being relieved. Guilty that her first feeling when they told her he was dead was freedom. Marcus leaned forward. Emma, listen to me. Derek is not going to change. Men like him don't change. They just get better at hiding it. And every time you go back, it gets harder to leave. Every time you forgive him, you teach him that his actions don't have real consequences. And one day when he's angry enough, when you've pushed back too hard, when the baby won't stop crying, it won't be a slap. It'll be something you don't wake up from. Tears were streaming down Emma's face now. You think you're weak for struggling right now? Marcus continued. You're not. You're up against a man who's spent years dismantling your sense of reality. You're up against a family with money and lawyers and social capital. You're up against a system that was designed to give men like Derek the benefit of the doubt. The fact that you're still here, still fighting, that makes you the strongest person in this room. Emma wiped her eyes. I don't feel strong. You don't have to feel it. You just have to keep doing it. One day at a time, one decision at a time. Keep choosing yourself. Keep choosing your daughter. The baby kicked then, visible movement under Emma's shirt. Both of them looked down at it. I want her to grow up knowing her mother was brave. Emma said softly. Even when she was scared, especially when she was scared. Then you know what you have to do. Emma nodded. And when she looked up at Marcus again, something had shifted in her expression. The doubt was still there. The fear was still there. But underneath it there was something else, something harder. Determination. 3 days later, Emma met with the prosecutor and gave her full statement. Every detail, every incident. Years of abuse laid out in painful, explicit detail. She signed papers agreeing to testify at trial. And Derek Martinez, watching his carefully constructed defense crumble, made the decision that violent men always make when they're backed into a corner. He decided to take back control the only way he knew how. The shelter had rules, strict rules designed to keep the women inside, safe from the men they were hiding from. No sharing the address, no posting on social media, no telling anyone where you were, not even family, unless staff verified they were safe contacts. Check-in times, buddy systems, cameras at every entrance. Emma followed every single rule. Derek found her anyway. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon, 3 weeks after the parking lot incident. Emma had a prenatal appointment at the clinic 4 blocks from the shelter. She'd gone with Lisa, the victim advocate, who'd become something between a caseworker and a friend. The appointment went well. The baby was healthy, growing right on schedule. A girl. Emma had already picked out a name. Sophia. It meant wisdom. They were walking back to Lisa's car, Emma carrying a folder of ultrasound pictures, when she saw him. Derek was leaning against a silver Honda Accord. Not his car, his mother's car, because he was smart enough to know Emma would recognize his vehicle. He was wearing a suit like he'd just come from work. His hair was neat. His face was calm. To anyone else, he looked like a normal guy waiting for someone. But Emma knew that calm. She knew what it meant. She froze. Her hand went instinctively to her belly. Lisa saw her reaction and followed her gaze, and in that moment, Lisa's entire demeanor changed from social worker to human shield. She stepped in front of Emma, her phone already out. "Mr. Martinez," Lisa said loudly, clearly. "You are in violation of a restraining order. I am calling the police right now." Derek didn't move. He just smiled. That smile Emma knew so well, the one that never reached his eyes. "I'm not within 100 yards of her. I measured. I'm exactly 103 yards away. I'm on a public street. I have every right to be here." He was right. Technically, the restraining order said 100 yards. He was standing just beyond that invisible line. "What do you want, Derek?" Emma's voice came out smaller than she intended. "I want to talk to my wife, to the mother of my child. Is that so unreasonable?" His voice was calm, reasonable, the voice he used with other people. The public, Derek. "Emma, please, can we just talk? Just 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." "No." Emma's voice was stronger now. "We have nothing to talk about. Our daughter. We have our daughter to talk about. Sophia, right? That's what you're naming her? You're really going to keep me from my own child? You're going to let some stranger, some guy you barely know, turn you against your husband?" "Marcus." He was talking about Marcus. "Marcus didn't turn me against you. You did that yourself when you put your hands on me." Derek's calm expression flickered. Just for a second. "I made a mistake. One mistake. And you're going to destroy our entire life over it? Emma, I've been going to counseling, anger management. I'm working on myself. I'm trying to be better. For you. For Sophia. Doesn't that mean anything?" Emma felt the familiar pull, the doubt, the part of her that had been conditioned for years to prioritize Derek's feelings over her own safety. The part that wanted to believe people could change. But then she remembered what Marcus had told her. Men like him don't change. They just get better at hiding it. "No," she said again. "Stay away from me, Derek. I mean it." Derek's expression hardened. The mask slipped, just for a moment, and she saw the real Derek underneath. The angry one. The dangerous one. "You think you're safe? You think hiding in that shelter makes you untouchable? Emma, I know where you are. I know your schedule. I know everything. And when this is all over, when the courts finally see what you really are, you're coming home, you and my daughter, and things are going to go back to the way they were." It wasn't a request. It was a threat. Lisa was already on the phone with 911 giving their location. Derek saw the police car turning onto the street 2 blocks away and got in his mother's car. He didn't speed away. He drove slowly, carefully, like a law-abiding citizen who'd done nothing wrong. But as he passed them, he looked directly at Emma and mouthed 2 words. "Soon." Marcus got the call from Officer Chen 20 minutes later. He found her. I don't know how, but he found her. "He's escalating, Marcus. This is exactly what I was afraid of." Marcus was at home, cleaning his rifle. It was something he did when his mind was too loud, when the memories from overseas started pressing too close. The repetitive motion, the familiar weight, the mechanical simplicity of it helped him focus. "Where is she now?" "Back at the shelter. Shaken up, but physically okay. But Marcus, we can't keep her safe if he knows where she is. The restraining order is just paper. He's already proven he doesn't care about it." Marcus set down the rifle. His mind was already shifting into operational mode. Threat assessment. Asset protection. Strategic planning. He's going to make a move. Soon. Men like him, when they feel control slipping away, they don't back off. They double down. That's what I'm afraid of. The trial is scheduled for 6 weeks from now. That's 6 weeks of him out on bail, watching her, waiting for an opportunity. What if she wasn't at the shelter? What do you mean? You said yourself the shelter is secure but not impenetrable. And if he found it once, he can find it again. What if we moved her somewhere he can't find? Somewhere off the grid? There was a pause. Marcus, what are you suggesting? I have a place. A cabin about 2 hours north of here. My grandfather's old hunting property. No address. Not on any map. No paper trail connecting it to me. It's isolated, defensible, and completely off the radar. You want to hide a protected witness at your private cabin? I want to keep her alive until the trial. Can the system do that? Can you guarantee her safety for 6 weeks? Officer Chen was quiet. They both knew the answer. "This is irregular," she finally said. "Extremely irregular. If anything goes wrong, I'll take full responsibility. But Sarah, you know I'm right. Derek is hunting her, and the shelter is just a cage. Eventually, he'll find a way in." Another long pause. "Let me talk to Lisa. Let me talk to Emma. This has to be her choice. But Marcus, if you do this, if you take her somewhere isolated, you're putting yourself at risk too. If Derek finds out, if he comes after you, I can handle Derek Martinez." "I know you can. That's what worries me. Because if you have to handle him, if this turns into a confrontation, we're looking at a whole different legal situation." Marcus understood what she was saying. Self-defense had boundaries, lines that couldn't be crossed, even when you were protecting someone. "I'll be careful," he said. "See that you are." Emma agreed to the plan after 24 hours of deliberation. Not because she wasn't scared. She was terrified. But she was more terrified of staying in a place Derek had already found. They left at 3 a.m, Marcus driving his truck with Emma in the passenger seat and Havoc in the back. They took a route designed to lose any tail, doubling back, taking side roads, making random stops. Marcus's training from a dozen high-threat extractions guiding every decision. The cabin was exactly as he'd described it. Remote, isolated, beautiful in a stark, unforgiving way. It sat on 20 acres of pine forest with a clear view of the single dirt road that led in. One entrance, one exit. Easy to defend. Inside it was simple but comfortable. 2 bedrooms, a wood stove, a generator for power, propane for cooking, a well for water. Everything you needed to disappear for a while. "This is where you grew up?" Emma asked, looking around at the rough-hewn logs and simple furnishings. "Summers," Marcus said. "My grandfather built it himself. Took him 3 years. After my father died, my mother sold our house and we lived here for a while. It was peaceful." Emma set down her small bag. Everything she owned in the world fit in one duffel. "I feel like I'm running away." "You're not running away. You're making a tactical retreat. There's a difference." Over the next few days, they fell into a rhythm. Marcus taught Emma basic security protocols, how to check the perimeter, how to recognize if someone had been on the property, how to use the radio to call for help if needed. He showed her where the weapons were kept, and how to use them if she absolutely had to, though he made it clear he didn't expect her to ever be in that position. Havoc appointed himself Emma's personal guardian. The dog followed her everywhere, his presence constant and reassuring. At night he slept on the floor beside her bed. During the day he stayed within arm's reach. Emma's belly grew. The baby kicked more now, harder. Sometimes Marcus would see Emma with her hand on her stomach, talking quietly to Sophia, making promises about the life they were going to have. A life without fear, without violence. It was peaceful. For 3 weeks, it was almost peaceful. Then Derek's lawyer filed an emergency motion claiming Emma had kidnapped herself and was denying Derek his parental rights. The motion claimed she was mentally unstable, that she'd fled the state with assistance from unknown individuals, and that she was putting herself and the baby at risk. Judge Harrison, a man in his 60s who'd been on the bench for 30 years, scheduled an emergency hearing. Emma's lawyer, Jennifer Moss, argued that Emma was in hiding because Derek had violated the restraining order and posed a credible threat. Derek's lawyer argued that Emma was paranoid and that Derek had done nothing wrong beyond standing on a public street. Judge Harrison ruled that Emma had to appear in court for a custody and safety hearing in 1 week. If she didn't appear, he would issue a warrant for her arrest and grant Derek emergency custody rights. "They're backing us into a corner," Jennifer explained over the phone. "If you don't show up, you look like you're running. If you do show up, Derek will know you're coming. He'll be waiting. So we go, Emma said. We go and we face him. Marcus didn't like it. Every tactical instinct he had screamed that this was a trap. But Emma was right. They couldn't hide forever. Eventually, they had to engage. If we're going to do this, Marcus said, we do it smart. We control every variable we can. He spent the next 3 days planning. Officer Chen helped, quietly, off the record. They mapped out the route to the courthouse, identified potential ambush points, arranged for unmarked units to provide loose security. Marcus coordinated with 2 of his old team members who lived in the area, guys he trusted with his life. The morning of the hearing, they left at dawn. Emma wore a simple dress that accommodated her now very pregnant belly. She looked small, vulnerable, but her eyes were clear, determined. The courthouse was downtown, a old granite building with marble floors and high ceilings. Security was tight. Metal detectors, bag checks, uniformed deputies everywhere. Derek was already there, sitting in the hallway outside the courtroom with his mother and his lawyer. He looked good, clean-shaven, well-dressed. He'd lost weight. The anger management counseling he'd mentioned wasn't just manipulation. Apparently, he'd actually gone. Or at least he could prove he'd gone. When he saw Emma, his face lit up with what looked like genuine relief and concern. The performance of a worried husband. Emma, thank God. Are you okay? Is the baby okay? I've been so worried. Mr. Martinez. Jennifer Moss stepped between them smoothly. You need to maintain the required distance from my client. I just want to make sure my wife is safe, that my daughter is safe. Is that so wrong? Judge Harrison's courtroom was all dark wood and formal dignity. Emma sat at the plaintiff's table with Jennifer. Derek sat at the defense table with his lawyer. Marcus sat in the gallery, 3 rows back. Close enough to help if needed, far enough to not seem threatening. The hearing was brutal. Derek's lawyer painted Emma as unstable, paranoid, influenced by extremist elements who'd turned her against her husband. He presented evidence of Derek's counseling attendance, character witnesses from his job, statements from his family. Jennifer Moss fought back hard. She presented the police reports, the witness statements from the parking lot, the photographic evidence of Emma's injuries, the sealed juvenile records that Marcus had unearthed, the testimony from Derek's ex-wife, Michelle, who'd finally broken her NDA to come forward. Judge Harrison listened to everything, his face unreadable. Here's my ruling, he finally said. The restraining order remains in place. Mr. Martinez, you are to have no contact with your wife until the criminal trial is concluded. However, he turned to Emma. Mrs. Martinez, I am also ordering you to stay within the jurisdiction and to provide the court with your current address for service of process. You cannot simply disappear. Your Honor, Jennifer began, my client's safety is important, but so is transparency. Mrs. Martinez, I understand you're frightened, but you cannot hide from the legal process. You need to engage with it. The hearing ended. Derek was escorted out first, giving Emma space. But as he passed Marcus in the gallery, he stopped, just for a second. You're the guy from the parking lot, Derek said. His voice was quiet, meant only for Marcus. The hero. Emma's told me all about you. Well, not all about you, but I've done my own research. Marcus Reid, 36. Dishonorably discharged from the army. Marcus hadn't been dishonorably discharged. That was a lie. But it was a clever lie, the kind designed to plant doubt. You think you're protecting her? Derek continued, still smiling that empty smile. But you're just making things worse. Because when this is all over, when the courts see through her lies, she's coming home. And you? You're going to prison for kidnapping and parental interference. Marcus didn't respond. Didn't take the bait. just maintained eye contact until Derek looked away first and left. But Marcus knew what he'd seen in Derek's eyes in that brief moment when the mask had slipped. Derek wasn't planning to wait for the courts, he was planning to take matters into his own hands. The attack came 4 days later. Marcus had been expecting it. He'd been sleeping light, Havoc beside the bed, his sidearm within reach. When the dog's ears pricked up at 2:47 a.m., Marcus was awake instantly. Havoc's growl was low, continuous. His attention fixed on the front of the cabin. Marcus moved silently to the window. The moon was 3/4 full, casting enough light to see the tree line. At first he saw nothing. Then movement, a shadow separating from other shadows. Then another. Derek hadn't come alone. Marcus moved to Emma's room. She was already awake, sitting up in bed, her hand on her belly. "What's happening?" "Get in the bathroom, lock the door. Don't come out until I tell you it's safe." Marcus, "Now, Emma." She moved. Good. She trusted him. Marcus returned to the main room. He didn't turn on any lights. He knew this cabin. He knew every board, every shadow. Derek didn't. The front door exploded inward. Not picked, not finessed. Kicked in with brute force. 3 men entered. Derek was in the middle, flanked by 2 others. One Marcus recognized from the courthouse, Derek's cousin. The other was a stranger. They had flashlights. And they had weapons. "Emma!" Derek's voice was loud, ragged. The careful control was completely gone now. This was Derek unleashed. "Emma, I know you're here. This is over. You're coming home. You and Sophia are coming home." Marcus stood in the shadows near the wood stove, perfectly still. Havoc was beside him, equally still, waiting for the command. "She doesn't want to go with you," Marcus said quietly. The 3 flashlight beams swung toward him. Derek's face, when the light caught, it was twisted with rage, and something else. Desperation. He was holding a pistol, his hands shaking. "You!" Derek spat. "This is all your fault. Everything was fine until you showed up. Emma was happy. We were building a life, and you poisoned her against me." "I didn't have to poison anything. You did that yourself." "Shut up!" Derek's voice cracked. "You don't know anything about us, about our marriage. She needs me. She's nothing without me. And you're just some loser who gets off playing hero. Well, guess what? There's 3 of us and 1 of you. How's that math work out for you?" Marcus didn't respond to that. He was calculating distances, angles, threat levels. The cousin looked nervous, his grip on his tire iron uncertain. The stranger looked more solid, more dangerous. He was holding his weapon like he knew how to use it. "Emma!" Derek called again. "I'm not leaving without you. Come out now and nobody gets hurt." "She's not coming out," Marcus said. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to put down the weapons. You're going to walk out that door, and you're going to turn yourself in to the police. That's your only option that ends with everyone walking away." Derek laughed. It was a high, unhinged sound. "I'm not going to prison. I didn't do anything wrong. She's my wife. That's my baby. I have a right." "You gave up your rights when you put your hands on her." "I barely touched her. Everyone acts like I'm some monster, but I barely touched her. And you broke my wrist. You assaulted me. But somehow I'm the bad guy?" Marcus saw it then. Derek genuinely believed he was the victim. In his mind, he'd been wronged. Emma had betrayed him. Marcus had attacked him. The system had persecuted him. He'd rewritten the entire narrative to make himself the hero of his own story. That made him more dangerous than Marcus had anticipated. Because Derek wasn't just here to intimidate Emma into coming back. He was here to make things right according to his twisted logic. "Last chance," Marcus said. "Leave now." Derek raised his pistol. "I'm not leaving without my wife." That's when Havoc moved. The dog didn't bark, didn't announce himself. He simply launched from his position, 90 pounds of trained military precision, and hit Derek's gun arm. The impact sent Derek sprawling backward, the pistol flying from his grip. The stranger swung toward Havoc with his baseball bat. Marcus moved. 3 steps, and he was there, redirecting the bat's trajectory with one hand while delivering a precise strike to the man's solar plexus with the other. The stranger folded, gasping. The cousin dropped his tire iron and ran. Just straight up ran out the front door. Derek was on the ground, Havoc standing over him, teeth bared, a continuous growl rumbling in his chest. Derek wasn't moving, wasn't fighting, just lying there with his arms covering his face, whimpering. All the rage, all the violence, all the swagger was gone. Faced with a real threat, a real opponent, Derek Martinez was exactly what Marcus had known he was all along, a coward. The police arrived 12 minutes later. Officer Chen had been monitoring the situation from a distance, waiting for Marcus's signal. She found Derek on the ground, his hands zip-tied behind his back, a German shepherd standing guard over him. She found the stranger sitting against a wall, still gasping for breath, also restrained. She found Marcus sitting calmly on the porch, his phone in his hand with the entire incident recorded. Self-defense. Marcus said simply. They broke into my home, threatened me and my guest. I defended us. Derek was screaming now, crying. He attacked me. His dog attacked me. I was just trying to see my wife. I have rights. You violated a restraining order, Officer Chen said, her voice cold. You broke into a private residence while armed. You brought accomplices. Mr. Martinez, you just escalated a misdemeanor assault charge into felony home invasion, violation of a protection order, and assault with a deadly weapon. She looked down at him with something like pity. You just guaranteed yourself prison time. Derek's lawyer couldn't fix this one. The evidence was overwhelming. The recording from Marcus's phone showed everything. Derek breaking in, Derek with the gun, Derek threatening Emma. 3 weeks later, faced with a case he couldn't possibly win, Derek took a plea deal. 8 years in prison. No contact with Emma or Sophia upon release. Complete termination of parental rights. Emma cried when she heard the sentence. Not tears of sadness. Tears of relief so profound it shook her entire body. 6 weeks later, Sophia Grace Martinez was born. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Perfectly healthy. She had Emma's eyes and a fierce cry that suggested she'd inherited her mother's newfound strength. Marcus visited them in the hospital. He stood at the foot of the bed, looking at this tiny human who'd been at the center of so much violence and had somehow made it into the world anyway. Thank you, Emma said. She was holding Sophia, her face exhausted but radiant. For everything, for saving my life, for giving me space to find my strength, for not letting him win. You saved yourself, Marcus said. I just made sure you had the chance to do it. Will you be her godfather? Emma asked. I know that's a lot to ask, but I want her to grow up knowing the man who made her life possible. Marcus looked at the baby. At Emma. At the future they were both fighting for. Yeah, he said quietly. I can do that. 8 months later, Emma had her own apartment. A job she loved. Friends she'd reconnected with. A restraining order that would last for decades. A daughter who was healthy and happy and knew nothing of the darkness she'd been born into. Marcus still checked in. Not every day, not even every week, but regularly. A quiet presence. A reminder that she wasn't alone, that someone was watching out for her. One Saturday afternoon, they were at the park. Sophia was on a blanket, reaching for Havoc's tail while the dog lay patiently beside her. Emma was watching them, a soft smile on her face. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't been in that parking lot that night? Emma asked. Marcus considered the question. Yeah, sometimes. I think about it all the time. I think about all the women who don't have someone show up, who don't have a Marcus Reid in the parking lot at exactly the right moment, what happens to them? Some of them find their own strength. Some of them get help from shelters, from advocates, from the system working the way it's supposed to. Some of them don't make it. Emma was quiet for a moment. I want to go back to school, social work. I want to be the person who shows up for other women the way people showed up for me. Marcus smiled. You'd be good at that. I learned from the best. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Sophia grab at sunbeams and grass and Havoc's endlessly patient ears. Around them, the park was full of families, of normal life, of the everyday miracles that people who'd never lived in fear took for granted. Here's the thing about domestic violence. It happens everywhere, in nice neighborhoods and poor ones, to educated women and uneducated ones, to strong women and vulnerable ones. Every 9 seconds in America, a woman is assaulted or beaten. 1 in 4 women will experience severe physical violence by an intimate partner in their lifetime. 1 in 4, and most of the time, nobody intervenes. People look away. They decide it's not their business. They don't want to get involved, but it takes just one person willing to step in, one person willing to not look away, one person willing to say, "This stops now." Maybe that person is you. If you're in an abusive relationship, please know this. It's not your fault. You're not crazy. You're not overreacting. You're not alone. And you deserve better. You deserve safety. You deserve peace. You deserve a life without fear. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. They're available 24/7. They can help you make a safety plan. They can connect you with resources. They can help you find a way out. And if you're someone who witnesses abuse, who sees something that doesn't look right, who watches a man put his hands on a woman, please don't look away. You don't have to be deltaforce to make a difference. You just have to be willing to speak up, to call 911, to be a witness, to offer help. Because here's what I want you to understand. The reason Derek Martinez beat Emma for years is because he could. Because nobody stopped him. Because the system failed her over and over. Because people looked away. And the reason Emma and Sophia are safe now, the reason they're building a new life, is because one man didn't look away. One man decided that what was happening wasn't acceptable. And one man had the training and the courage to do something about it. You might not have Marcus Reid's training, but you have a voice, you have a phone, you have the power to not be a bystander. If this story moved you, if it made you think about the woman in your life who always has bruises, the neighbor whose husband screams at her, the co-worker who flinches when someone moves too fast, then do something. Say something. Be the person who doesn't look away. Hit that subscribe button if you want more stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Leave a comment telling us where you're watching from and sharing your own story if you feel comfortable. Because the more we talk about this, the more we shine light on it, the harder it becomes for abusers to hide in the shadows. And remember, you don't have to save the world. You just have to save one person, and sometimes that person is yourself. Thank you for listening. Stay safe out there. And if you see something, do something. Because that woman in the parking lot, she could be your sister, your daughter, your mother, your friend. Or she could be you.